Here's what's the most petty thing someone tried to keep in a divorce and won? Story 1. I worked on a divorce where the husband and wife were fighting over a collection of 20-plus Hot Wheels cars. Not the rare collectible kind, just the $1 ones you get at Walmart. They were displayed in a small plastic case in the garage, and each one had been customized with Sharpie flames and names like Lil Zumi and Death Rod. The husband insisted he had painted them with his nephew, but the wife claimed they were hers from before the marriage. They went back and forth, and finally, during mediation, the wife brought in a receipt from 2007 showing she bought a 10-pack. She also had a photo of her holding Lil Zumi in front of a Christmas tree. The judge, probably just tired of the nonsense, awarded her all of them. The husband looked like he was going to cry. Over toy cars. Story 2. I had a client who wanted to keep the doormat. Just a standard choir mat that said "Welcome" in bold letters. His wife had bought it, but he insisted it was symbolic. We tried to convince him to let it go, but he was adamant. It became this weird hill to die on. During a hearing, the opposing counsel rolled their eyes and offered a compromise. He could have the doormat if she got the nice wine rack. He agreed. After the divorce was finalized, he confessed to me that he had cut up the mat and mailed a piece of it to his ex with a note that said, "You're no longer welcome." That level of pettiness was something else. Story 3. This one still makes me laugh. A couple was divorcing after 17 years, no kids, no real estate, but they went nuclear over a set of Taco Bell collector cups from the 90s. Batman, Star Wars, Jurassic Park, all that stuff. The wife wanted to sell them and split the money, but the husband claimed he had emotional attachment because he used them during his formative nerd years. It turned into a 3-month squabble. He even brought in an expert to appraise their value, about $60 total. In the end, the judge awarded them to the husband, but only after the wife made him sign a handwritten agreement saying he'd never sell or trash them. She literally said in court, "If he ever throws them out, I hope they haunt him." They both shook hands after, smiling like maniacs. It was the weirdest version of closure I've ever seen. Story 4. My friend, who's a family attorney, had a case where the wife fought tooth and nail for the husband's old college hoodie. Not a fancy one, just a worn-out, faded university sweatshirt with holes in the sleeves. Turns out, it was the first thing he ever loaned her when they were dating, and she wore it every night like a security blanket. She said it held emotional history. The husband argued she never returned it, so it was stolen property. The fight got so bad that their lawyers had to step in and arrange a literal exchange ceremony. The hoodie was folded, placed in a gift bag, and handed over in the presence of both legal teams. She cried. He rolled his eyes so hard I thought he'd sprained something. All for a ratty old hoodie. Story 5. One of the weirdest divorces I ever worked involved a couple battling over a pet rock. Yes, a pet rock. It was literally a smooth oval stone with googly eyes glued on and a name, Sir Pebbleton. The wife had given it to the husband as a gag anniversary gift. He kept it on his desk for years. When they split, she demanded it back, claiming it was technically a gift on loan. The husband refused, saying it had become part of his routine. They couldn't agree, so the judge actually had to make a ruling. He awarded custody of Sir Pebbleton to the husband, and even added a note in the decree stating, "The pet rock shall remain in the respondent's possession, undisturbed and unharmed." She asked to say goodbye to it in the parking lot afterward. We watched her talk to the rock for a solid minute before walking away. I've never seen something so ridiculous taken so seriously. Story 6. A colleague once had a divorce case where the couple fought over a garden. Not an antique, not sentimental, not even cute, just an ugly, chipped garden gnome with a missing hand and faded paint. It was originally part of a 3-piece set. 2 had broken over the years, leaving this lone gnome. The wife insisted it had become a guardian of her flower bed. The husband claimed he bought it on a whim at a gas station in 2009, and it was his little dude. Neither side would back down. The wife actually brought in photos of the gnome through the seasons, Norman in winter, Norman by the tulips, etc. The husband brought in a statement from a friend verifying it was his gas station find. The judge finally allowed the wife to keep it, but the husband got visitation rights, once a year, during spring. It was written into the settlement. I still think about that gnome every time I see lawn decor. Story 7. In one of my own cases, the husband was absolutely determined to keep the couple's shared Netflix account. They had no kids, few assets, and the divorce itself was amicable until the streaming services came up. He didn't want the house, the car, or even the dog. He just wanted the Netflix account, with his viewing history, his carefully curated list, and the saved progress on all his shows. He said, and I quote, "I don't want to lose my place in Peaky Blinders again." The wife, stunned by how passionately he fought for it, said fine, but only if she got the air fryer. He hesitated. A full week of back-and-forth negotiations, and eventually they signed a clause granting her the air fryer and him full rights to the account, including the password and email associated with it. A man who gave up a $25,000 car to keep his continue watching list. That's a new level of commitment. Story 8. I worked for a woman who wanted the toilet seat. Yes, just the seat. Not the whole toilet, just the lid and seat. She claimed it was the only clean thing in the house she could sit on. It was a high-end heated model with a built-in bidet and LED lighting. The husband mocked her for it, calling it her throne. She responded by sending our firm a list of the exact functions and settings she had personalized. Seat temperature, water pressure, light color, everything. It became an actual point in the divorce agreement. She got the toilet seat. The rest of the bathroom stayed with him. A week after the judgment, she emailed us a photo of the seat installed in her new apartment. She captioned it, "Long live the Queen." Story 9. There was a bitter divorce where the wife insisted on keeping only the left shoe from every pair they owned together. Not the full pairs, just the left shoes. At first, we thought she was joking. Then she showed up with a spreadsheet detailing every pair. Brand, size, date purchased, and which one she wanted. Her reasoning? He always walked out on me. Now he can do it literally, limping. The judge, clearly not in the mood, told her it wasn't practical. She compromised. She'd let him keep the shoes if she got all the coffee mugs. He agreed. A small win for him, until he got home and realized she'd superglued all the left shoes to the closet floor. That case was a masterclass in spite disguised as negotiation. Story 10. This one wasn't my case, but a friend told me about it. A couple spent thousands in legal fees fighting over a Roomba. A vacuum. But not just any vacuum. This Roomba had been given a name, Kevin, programmed with both their voices, and had a custom 3D printed cowboy hat attached to it. It apparently became something of a house mascot. They'd record videos of it going on missions, and even celebrated its birthday once with cupcakes. When they split, both wanted Kevin. Neither would budge. The husband said Kevin responded to his commands better. The wife claimed she was the one who gave him his hat and his purpose. After months of legal back and forth and an attempted Roomba sharing schedule, the judge awarded it to the wife, on the condition she removed the husband's voice commands. 2 days later, he mailed her a tiny cowboy hat with a note. He was never yours. No custody battle over the kids. Just the vacuum. Story 11. This one involved a 3-hour mediation over a novelty pancake griddle shaped like Mickey Mouse. The husband claimed it was an essential part of weekend tradition. The wife countered that she bought it and had mastered the flip. To prove her point, she brought a video to the mediation, an actual compilation of her making perfect Mickey pancakes over the years, complete with background music. The husband scoffed and claimed he taught her the flip tech. Eventually, the wife was awarded the griddle. The next day, the husband mailed her a pancake in the shape of Mickey's head, burnt on one side, with a sticky note that said, "He misses me." She sent back a photo of it in the trash. People are wild. Story 12. I once had a client who wanted nothing from the divorce except a single drawer from their shared filing cabinet. Not the whole cabinet, just the bottom drawer. He said that drawer had his vibe. The wife was fine with it, until she realized why. He had secretly converted it into a hidden snack. Inside were candy wrappers, granola bars, beef jerky, and a single mini bottle of Fireball. She got angry, not because of the snacks, but because he'd been hiding the good stuff from her during their marriage. Suddenly it became about betrayal, lies, and drawer trust. The mediator, trying not to laugh, suggested they just empty the drawer and split the snacks. They refused. Final settlement. He got the drawer. She got the wine fridge. I still remember the line in the agreement. Drawer is to remain intact and unaltered. What even is this job sometimes? Story 13. This story comes from a colleague who handled a case where the husband refused to give up an autographed photo of Guy Fieri. Apparently, the wife hated it. She said it clashed with the kitchen aesthetic, and she'd hidden it behind the fridge more than once. The husband, however, said it was a symbol of flavor and loyalty. The photo was signed, "Keep it spicy, Guy." The wife offered to let him have the signed photo if she could keep the dog. He hesitated. There was a full day of silence between lawyers while he thought about it. Ultimately, he chose the dog. The wife kept the photo. A month later, she mailed it to him, shredded into confetti, inside a Flavortown envelope. He cried, over Guy Fieri. Not even kidding. Story 14. One of the most insane things I've ever seen was a divorce where the wife fought for the ashes of the husband's dead cat. Let me repeat, not her cat, his childhood cat, that passed away years before they met. The husband had the ashes in a small wooden urn on the mantel. During their divorce, she insisted she deserved to keep them because She dusted them for years and had an emotional connection. He was devastated. The case got so heated they had to involve a third-party arbitrator, who finally suggested they split the ashes. Yes, split the ashes. They brought in a crematory professional to help. The wife took half the ashes in a small pendant necklace. The husband kept the original urn, now only half full. I will never forget the phrase, joint custody of cremains, as long as I live. Story 15. My most ridiculous case? The battle for the personalized Monopoly board. This couple had played Monopoly every Friday for years. They had a custom board made with their favorite restaurants as properties, family in place of the game tokens, and even replaced community chest with pet drama cards. When the split happened, they both claimed it was a family heirloom in the making. The husband said he came up with the concept. The wife said she made the design, sourced the vendor, and wrote most of the joke cards. We tried to split it, suggested making a copy or dividing the cards, but neither would budge. The case dragged for weeks over this board. Eventually, a judge stepped in and told them, "You've both turned this game into a battlefield. Congratulations, you've both lost." He ordered the board destroyed, shredded, gone. The courtroom went silent. The wife cried. The husband just stared blank. A game that started for love ended in fire. Story 16. There was a case where a man wanted one thing from the divorce: the freezer in the garage. Not the contents, just the freezer itself. His wife thought he was being ridiculous and accused him of clinging to it out of spite. He insisted it wasn't just a freezer, it was the meat vault. Turns out he'd been slowly stockpiling rare cuts of steak, wild game, and expensive seafood for years. Over $2,000 worth of carefully sealed meat. He had a spreadsheet labeled Operation Ribeye. She didn't care about the meat but wanted the freezer gone because it took up space and reminded her of how obsessive he was. They ended up in court over it. He got the freezer. The wife kept the dining room set and added a clause that the freezer couldn't be plugged in on their old property lot. To this day, my client refers to it as the cold victory. Story 17. I had a client, a quiet woman in her 50s, who didn't care about the house, the car, or even the vacation timeshare. She just wanted the husband's massive snow globe collection. We're talking nearly 200 snow globes from all over the world. Some were cheesy tourist ones, others rare and vintage. But the kicker? She didn't like snow globes. She hated how they looked, how they cluttered shelves, and said they were dust catchers. So why did she want them? "I'm giving them away," she said. "One every week. I'll film it and tag him." And she did. After the settlement, she started a TikTok account where she dramatically gave each snow globe to random strangers, shelters, thrift shops, or smashed a few in funny ways. Each video started with, "This week's globe of freedom." He tried to get her to stop, even threatened legal action, but the court had already granted her ownership. Petty? Oh, absolute. But within her rights. Story 18. A coworker once had a couple argue over an old, half-used Yankee candle. Not a full set of them. Not a limited edition. Just one single candle. Scent, autumn wreath. The wife claimed it was the last relaxing thing in her life, while the husband insisted it was his favorite scent, and he'd been the one to light it every night. They brought it up in mediation. The mediator blinked a few times and asked if they realized you could buy another. The wife said, "It's not about the candle. It's about the memories." The husband replied, "It's about respect for rituals." Eventually, the candle was granted to the wife. The husband immediately went out, bought the exact same candle, and sent her a video of him lighting it with the caption, "Still smells like winning." The pettiness was aromatic. Story 19. I'll never forget the couple who fought over a plastic spoon. Yes, a plastic spoon. It came from a frozen yogurt shop they'd visited on their first date, and apparently, the wife kept it in a drawer as a memento. It wasn't fancy, just pink and a little bent. During the split, the husband asked for the yogurt spoon. She refused. Things escalated. She accused him of trying to erase their history. He said she didn't even remember the flavor they ordered. They brought it to mediation, and yes, it made it into the property list. Eventually, the mediator suggested they do a ceremonial parting with the spoon. Both of them agreed to snap it in half. They did. She cried. He pocketed his half like it was a war medal. The mediator just muttered, "You can't make this stuff up." Story 20. One of my favorite stories involved a couple that battled over a cardboard cutout of Jeff Goldblum. Life-size, shirt unbuttoned, Jurassic Park era. They had bought it as a joke, then left it in different places around the house to scare each other. Over the years, it became this sort of quirky relationship mascot. When they filed for divorce, the wife wanted Jeff. The husband wanted Jeff. Neither could let him go. They even tried to have a friend mediate Jeff's custody outside of court. Eventually, they agreed to joint custody. The cutout would spend 6 months at each house. They had a Google Calendar with travel dates and photo check-ins to show Jeff was safe and upright. Last I heard, they still co-parent the cardboard gold. They don't speak, except to send messages like, Jeff misses the living room sunbeam. Honestly, the healthiest custody arrangement I've ever seen. Story 21. This couple fought over a Costco membership card. Just one card. Same account, but only one physical card. The wife argued that she was the primary on the account. The husband said he did 95% of the shopping and had earned the right to the card. He even brought receipts, literally, printed and highlighted. She countered with photos of her standing in the checkout line, claiming emotional ownership. Eventually, they agreed she could keep the card, and he would be reimbursed $60 to start his own membership. He made sure to send her a photo the next day holding his new card with a rotisserie chicken in one hand and a smug thumbs up in the other. That's $60 worth of spite. Story 22. I represented a guy who desperately wanted the blender. Not because it was expensive, it wasn't, or sentimental, but because he knew his soon-to-be ex used it for her morning smoothies and he hated the sound. Said it was his daily alarm clock for 5 years. When they split, he demanded the blender as personal justice. She refused, said it was petty and vindictive. They argued about it for weeks. His final offer? He'd give her the king-sized bed, the fancy espresso machine, and the matching towels, if he got the blender. She finally agreed. Then he walked out, left the blender on the driveway, and crushed it with his car. She watched from the window. He later told me, that sound was music to my ears. Story 23. I had a case where the husband insisted on keeping the bathroom mirror. Not a decorative one, a large wall-mounted one, bolted into the master bathroom. The wife was baffled. He doesn't even use it, she said. Turns out, he had hidden money, yes, actual cash, taped behind the mirror frame. Thousands. He'd been slowly building a stash there during the marriage, just in case things went south. He didn't expect her to fight for it, but she did, on principle. When it came time to remove it, both parties stood in the bathroom while a contractor took it off the wall. Out fell a wad of envelopes, labeled with years. The wife froze. He looked so smug. The judge ruled the money was joint property and they split it 50-50. He got the mirror, though, empty and worthless now. Symbolic, really. Story 24. A client of mine spent $15,000 in legal fees just to keep the family's inflatable Santa. One of those giant 12-foot light-up yard Santas that waves and inflates nightly around December. It wasn't vintage, not custom, just a regular store-bought holiday decoration. But it was his. Every Christmas, he'd go all out with decorations, and Santa was his pride and joy. His wife hated it, said it was tacky and ruined the aesthetic. She wanted to burn it as a final act of freedom. So they fought and fought. He finally got to keep it. The following Christmas, he posted a photo on Facebook of the inflatable Santa holding a cardboard sign that read, "She got the tree. I got the Claus." He paid 5 figures for that joke. Said it was worth every penny. Story 25. There was a case where both parties refused to back down over a tortilla blanket. Yep, a round fleece blanket designed to look like a tortilla. It had been a gag gift during their first anniversary, and they used to take turns wrapping each other in it and yelling, "Burrito mode." When things fell apart, both wanted the blanket. Not for comfort, just for nostalgia and revenge. They couldn't decide. So, the mediator suggested they flip a coin. They agreed. The coin was tossed. The wife won. She then took a photo of her dog wrapped in it and sent it to him with the caption, "Guess who's the burrito now?" He blocked her. She framed the picture. Story 26. A couple went full legal war over a pair of salt and pepper shakers. Not some fancy heirloom, just ceramic cows. One said S and the other P on their sides, and the cows had little hats. They were bought at a roadside diner during a road trip, and apparently became a symbol of their marriage. The wife wanted to keep them for sentimental reasons. The husband claimed he always used the salt cow and had bonded with it. They refused to split the pair, saying it would be cruel. Mediation failed. Arbitration failed. So their lawyers proposed a compromise, alternating possession, like a joint custody agreement. They actually agreed. Those cows now travel back and forth between their homes every 6 months, packed carefully, with notes on how to store them properly. I once saw a follow-up on social media, a photo of the cows at an airport with the caption, "Custody Exchange Day." The pettiness has evolved into performance art. Story 27. This one still blows my mind. A client of mine wanted just the front doorknob from their shared house. Not the door. Not the house. They were selling it. Just the doorknob. Why? because it was the first thing he touched the day they moved in, and he felt it was symbolic of beginnings. The wife was livid. He didn't install it. He didn't even pick it out, she screamed during a mediation session. He just touches things and thinks he owns them. Eventually, the house sold, and the buyer was informed that the original doorknob would be replaced per the settlement agreement. On the final walkthrough, my client removed it himself, placed it gently into a padded box, and walked away like he'd won the lottery. Pretty sure it's sitting in a shadow box above his fireplace now. Story 28. There was a divorce where the husband refused to let go of the garage remote. Not the garage, mind you. The wife got the house. But he wanted the remote control. Why? Because he said it gave him a sense of power, being able to open her garage from afar. She called it creepy. He called it symbolic closure. She asked the court to revoke his access, and it turned into a mini-legal argument about garage tech, signal interference, and emotional boundaries. Eventually, the judge made him hand it over. But before he did, he reportedly opened and closed the garage from across the street 4 times. Just for the dramatic exit. She installed a new system the next day. Smart move. Story 29. One of my most surreal cases involved a couple arguing over a plant. A pothos plant, to be exact. It had been in their kitchen for years, grown from a little cutting into a trailing junk. The wife claimed it was her baby, that she watered and talked to it. The husband countered with a time-lapse video of him rotating it for sun exposure every morning, calling himself the plant's true caretaker. It got so serious they had an actual horticulture expert weigh in during mediation to assess the plant's condition and which environment it would thrive in. After 3 meetings and a shared PowerPoint presentation, they agreed to split it. She kept the mother plant. He got 2 cuttings in tiny starter pots. Both sides signed off. Peace was achieved. And yes, he named his 2 baby plants Rebound and Fresh Start. Story 30. This one was brutal. The husband demanded to keep every single charger cable in the house. Phone chargers, laptop chargers, camera cords, USB-C, old ones that didn't even fit anything anymore. He wanted them all. His reasoning? I bought 90% of them. She kept taking mine and losing them. The wife countered that many of them were community chargers, and she had just as much right. It became this whole cataloging nightmare. We actually made a spreadsheet titled Cable Custody. It listed the cord type, length, and original purpose. In the end, the husband got all but 3. The wife took the ones specific to her devices. He labeled every charger he kept with a tag that read, "Mine." Still, she texted me later and said, "I hope he trips over them in the dark." Story 31. A woman once demanded custody of the family hammock. She claimed it was the only place she ever truly relaxed in 12 years of marriage. Said it was her personal peace pod. The husband countered that he bought it, installed it, and bled for it after getting rope burns trying to hang it on a windy day. It escalated quickly. She accused him of never appreciating quiet time, and he fired back that she only started using it after seeing influencers post about theirs. The mediator had to look up the original Amazon purchase to confirm who paid for it. The wife argued she added it to the cart. He clicked buy. Who really owned it? Eventually, the husband offered to give her the hammock if he could take the espresso machine. She agreed. 3 weeks later, she sent him a video of her swaying in the hammock, holding a store-bought coffee, whispering, "Worth it." Story 32. There was a divorce case I watched unfold in sheer disbelief. 2 grown adults fighting over a brick. Not a gold-plated one. Not a historic relic. Just a normal red brick with a little paint splatter on it. The backstory? It was from the first home they ever rented together. The house was later demolished, and during the teardown, the wife snuck onto the property and grabbed 1 brick as a keepsake. She kept it on the bookshelf. Years later, during the divorce, the husband said it was their shared memory and insisted on keeping it. She refused. "You didn't even care about it until I told you I was taking." They argued hard. Multiple emails, 2 mediator sessions. The husband eventually offered to take half of it. She declined. The judge finally ruled in her favor. At the end of it all, she told me she dropped the brick off the balcony by accident a few weeks later. Oops. Story 33. One of the most theatrical divorces I've seen involved a couple and a custom bobblehead of themselves. It was a wedding gift. 2 little figures in wedding clothes, exaggerated heads, standing on a heart that said, "Forever-ish." They used to keep it on the mantle. When the marriage ended, they both wanted, not out of love, but because each thought the other would be more upset losing. They each offered buyouts. She offered $500 for it. He said no, countered with $1,000. She laughed in his face and said, "I'll take your dog before you take this bobblehead." It went to court. The judge gave it to her, simply because she could prove it was gifted to her maid of honor, who who then passed it to her. The husband lost his mind. A week later, he mailed her a 3D printed replica, with his head replaced by the rock. Petty and honestly impressive. Story 34. I represented a man who wanted the shower curtain. Just the curtain. It had pineapples on it, bright yellow ones with little sunglasses and surfboards. His wife hated it. She had threatened to throw it out multiple times. When he moved out, he left most things behind but asked us to put the curtain in the official settlement agreement. I found it during a rough time. It made me laugh, he said. She hated Joy. She didn't even fight it. Just laughed, signed the papers, and said, "Enjoy your fruity freedom." He now has the curtain framed in his new place. Not even kidding. Story 35. There was a client I worked with who fought for an entire drawer of takeout menus. Not vintage ones. Not collectible. Just an overflowing pile of old, crinkled menus from local places, most of which now had websites or QR codes anyway. But to him, they were the paper history of our Friday nights. His wife called it a drawer full of trash. He insisted. She resisted. She even joked in court that he could take them if he also took the expired ketchup packets in the junk drawer. He said fine. Took it all. Menus, ketchup, soy sauce, rubber bands. 2 weeks later, he sent her a hand-laminated menu titled New Beginnings, with his new address and favorite takeout spot circled in red. Honestly, kind of iconic. Story 36. Had a divorce case where the wife refused to leave the marriage without a specific potato peeler. Not a fancy kitchen gadget. Just a basic, slightly rusted, orange-handled peeler that looked like it came from a dollar store. Why? Because it was the only one she ever liked using, and he always stole it. She claimed he did it on purpose, even when they had 3 other peelers in the drawer. He said she was being dramatic. The argument spiraled until she claimed that peeler was the only thing she could count on in the entire marriage. He scoffed. The mediator tried to offer a $20 gift card to replace it. She declined. She got the peeler. At the final settlement signing, she pulled it from her purse, held it up, and said, "Now I can finally slice things clean." That was the moment I realized how deeply symbolic kitchen tools can be. Story 37. A couple once spent 4 months fighting over a life-sized cardboard cutout of The Rock. Not as a joke. This was dead serious. It originally belonged to the husband, a fan of wrestling and action movies, who kept it in his home office. The wife hated it and used to hide it in closets or behind doors to scare him. It became their version of pranking. When they separated, she said it had become part of the household culture and wanted it as a reminder of their happier, goofier times. He said no, that she always hated it, and she didn't deserve to keep Dwayne. They both tried to argue emotional attachment to a cardboard man. In mediation, he finally agreed to give it to her, but only after cutting off the head. The next day, she posted a photo of the now headless Rock in her apartment with a speech bubble taped to it. She took my heart and my head. Some wounds go deep. Story 38. One of the strangest battles I ever saw was over a singing fish plaque. You know the kind. Those wall-mounted fake bass that flap and sing songs like "Don't Worry, Be Happy." It had hung in their kitchen for years. The wife hated it, claimed it gave her stress nightmares. The husband, however, loved triggering it whenever she was mad. His way of lightening the mood. When they split, he assumed he'd get it. She demanded it just to burn it. He was horrified. Offered cash, kitchen appliances, even the record player just to keep his fish. She refused. Eventually, the judge awarded it to him with the note that it must be used for personal enjoyment, not psychological warfare. He laughed. She didn't. Story 39. There was a case where both parties wanted the exact same coffee mug. It was a simple white mug with a chipped rim that said, "World's Okayest Couple," a joke gift from their first year of marriage. It became a staple. Whichever one made coffee first would use the mug as a low-effort love note. Now, years later, they were both convinced they deserved the mug. They each offered replacements, even matching mugs, but neither would budge. Eventually, the judge ordered the mug be placed in neutral possession and awarded based on first morning coffee rights, meaning whoever got the house got the mug. The wife won the house. She posted a photo of the mug filled with espresso and the caption, "Still okay? Still mine." It got over 600 likes. Story 40. A man once demanded to keep every single TV remote from the house. Not the TVs, those went to his wife, but just the remotes. When asked why, he said, "Control. She always took it. Now I take it back." The wife tried to reason with him, pointing out that without the TVs, the remotes were useless. He didn't care. He called it symbolic justice. We tried to settle, but he was adamant. He packed them in a labeled box marked, "My Turn." 2 weeks later, The wife texted me a photo of all the TVs in her new house, with new universal remotes and a caption that read, "He can keep pushing buttons. I already moved on." Petty on both sides. Deliciously so. Story 41. I had a client who refused to walk away from the marriage without the bath mat. Just one. This ugly, faded purple bath mat with frayed edges that had definitely seen better days. Her reasoning? It was the only thing that ever soaked up the mess. We assumed she was being symbolic. Turns out she was being literal. Her ex had a habit of dripping water all over the bathroom and never cleaning up. She said the bath mat suffered with her and deserved a second life. He didn't want it, but once she made it an issue, then he wanted it, just to stop her from winning. After some mediation and minor threats to take it to court, she finally got it. She sent us a photo of it freshly washed, with a ribbon tied around it. Caption read, "Finally dry." Story 42. One of my favorite petty cases involved a set of novelty socks. The couple had a tradition of gifting each other funny socks every Valentine's Day. One year it was tacos, the next year flamingos. Once even socks with each other's faces on. They had a full drawer by the time things went south. When they divorced, the wife wanted to keep the socks, claiming she wore them the most. The husband said they were gifts and should be shared or split evenly. They brought the drawer to mediation. I kid you not. Each sock was laid out and divided like fine jewelry. A neutral party literally read out descriptions. One pair, cheeseburgers with sunglasses. One pair, beer mugs with hearts. The wife tried to take both pairs that had his face on. He protested. In the end, she got one with his face, and he got the other. He later posted a photo of himself wearing them, captioned, "Still putting my best foot forward." Story 43. There was a case where a couple went to war over a Christmas tree topper. It wasn't expensive. Just a weird little handmade angel with googly eyes and yarn hair. Their daughter made it when she was in kindergarten, and they'd used it every year since. The daughter was now 22 and wanted nothing to do with it. "Just get a new one," she said. But neither parent budged. The father said it was his tradition. The mother said, "She made it with my glue gun." It went back and forth for months. Eventually, the judge suggested shared custody, alternating holidays. Both refused. The mom won. The next Christmas, she put it on the tree and posted a pic with the caption, "She may be lopsided, but she's loyal." Pettiest Christmas since the Grinch. Story 44. This one gets a gold star for creativity. A couple fought over a cheese board. Not a fancy one. Just a bamboo charcuterie board with feast mode engraved on the bottom. The husband claimed it was his because he was the one who hosted game nights. The wife said she bought it, and he never once arranged a spread without help. They debated it for weeks. Eventually, during arbitration, the husband offered a wild deal. He'd give her the board if she agreed to take all the mismatched Tupperware lids. She agreed gleefully. Turns out she had already bought a new cheese board. The Tupperware? She donated the lids to an art class that turned them into a mosaic titled Chaos. We got pictures. It was actually pretty impressive. Story 45. A woman once requested to keep a broken lamp in her divorce. Not a valuable antique. Just a tall floor lamp with a bent neck and a missing bulb cover. She said it was the first thing she bought after moving in with her husband. He always hated it. Called it the Leaning Lamp of Pisa. But she loved it. Said it represented her bending, but never breaking. He offered to buy her a new one. She refused. In mediation, he finally agreed to let her have it, but only if she took it as is, with no repairs. Since that's how it always was, she agreed. On move-out day, she rolled it out like it was royalty, wrapped in bubble wrap. A month later, she posted a pic of it upright, repaired, next to a new one just like it. Caption: "Some things you fix, some things you replace." Oh, Story 46. There was a divorce where the husband fought to keep a thermostat magnet, just a tiny fridge magnet shaped like a thermostat, with a slider to indicate the ideal temperature. They'd used it as a joke for years, moving it back and forth based on who was cold or hot. The wife wanted it because it reminded her of their playful side. The husband wanted it because he always won thermostat wars. When they couldn't agree, the wife offered to buy him a new one. He said it wouldn't have the same battle energy. Eventually, the judge said it wasn't worth court time and told them to decide in mediation. They played a single game of rock, paper, scissors in the conference room. He won. He walked out holding that magnet like it was the Olympic torch. Story 47. A client of mine refused to leave the marriage without the left side of the couch. Yes, the left side, not the whole couch, not half of a sectional, just the side she always sat on. It was a 3-cushion couch, but she insisted she only ever used the left spot and had emotionally imprinted on it. We tried explaining that removing one part of the couch would ruin the entire piece. Didn't matter. After weeks of negotiation, the husband finally agreed to give her the cushion and matching armrest cover. She hired someone to make it into a chair. It actually looked decent. She later texted a photo of it with a mug on the armrest that read, "No longer part of your set." Story 48. One of the weirdest disputes I ever saw was over a tiny ceramic frog. It was no bigger than a tennis ball. Green, slightly chipped, and sat on a bathroom windowsill. The wife said it was her thinking frog. She stared at it every morning while brushing her teeth. It gave her peace. The husband insisted it was his from childhood and had survived 3 moves. He also claimed it once saved him from a spider by being in the right place at the right time. Mediation stalled. They refused to part with the frog. Eventually, we proposed this. The frog stays with whoever moves out first. The husband left the next day at 6 a.m. With the frog in his jacket pocket, she replaced it with a ceramic toad. Called it an upgrade. Story 49. I handled a divorce where the husband wanted sole ownership of their fantasy football team. Yes, the team. They co-managed it for 5 years. League champs twice. She made most of the picks. He handled the trades. When they split, he wanted the name, the draft rights, and the league spot. She said no way. She came up with the legendary team name, Victoria's Secret. She even brought in screenshots showing she ran the last 2 seasons almost solo. The judge didn't know what to do with this one. In the end, they agreed to retire the team name and both re-enter the league separately. She joined the next season as Victorious X. He named his team Bench Her. It was war on and off the field. Story 50. This one still gets brought up in our office. A man demanded his ex-wife return a single spoon. Not a silver spoon, not engraved. Just one spoon from a random Target flatware set. Why? Because it was the perfect yogurt spoon. He said the curve, weight, and size made it irreplaceable. She laughed it off at first, then refused. If it matters that much to you, you should have held on to me harder than you held onto that spoon. He filed a formal request for property return. She countered by mailing him a box of 27 mismatched spoons and a note that read, "Find a new soulmate." He brought the box to our office and dug through it. Never found one he liked as much. Sometimes it's not about the spoon. It's about everything else. Story 51. I had a case where the husband fought tooth and nail for a singing birthday card. It was a card his wife had given him on their 3rd anniversary. When opened, it played "I Wanna Know What Love Is" by Foreign. But the reason he wanted it? The message inside. She had written a long, heartfelt note that he now considered the most honest moment she ever had. He didn't want it because he missed her. He wanted it as evidence that she used to care before she changed. She wanted to destroy it, said it made her cringe now. So we negotiated. She could scan and redact the message if she wanted to preserve her dignity, but he got to keep the physical card. He taped it to his fridge like it was an artifact in a museum. Never opened it again, just stared at it like a fossil of a marriage. Story 52. One of the strangest cases I've worked on involved a couple battling over a rubber duck. It was bright yellow with a pirate eye patch and a tiny plastic sword. It sat in their bathroom for years. A silly gift from a vacation. The wife claimed it was hers. She bought it, placed it in the tub, and named it Captain Quack. The husband claimed it belonged to both of them because they used to move it around the house like a running joke. Sometimes she'd find it in the fridge, or it would sail on a Roomba. They refused to budge. Mediation didn't work. A judge had to step in and suggested a coin toss. The wife won, barely concealed her smirk, and walked out holding it like a golden trophy. The husband muttered, "I hope he sinks." 2 weeks later, she mailed him a photo of Captain Quack floating in a wine glass. The subject line? Thriving. Story 53. I once worked a case where a man was adamant, absolutely obsessed, with getting the ice cube trays. Not a fancy fridge with an automatic dispenser. Just 2 cheap, flexible trays from the dollar store. His ex couldn't understand it. Why do you even want them? You never filled them once in your life. He looked her dead in the eye and said, "That's not true. I filled them when you left me." They ended up in arbitration. She tried offering him brand new silicone trays. He said no. He wanted those trays. Eventually, she gave in. At the final property exchange, she tossed them in a paper bag with a post-it note that said, "Here's your cold heart back." He took them without a word. Story 54. There was a case where a couple fought over a Lego set, specifically a completed Millennium Falcon from the Ultimate Collector's series. Thousands of pieces. It took them a month to build it together. The husband claimed he did 70% of the work and emotionally bonded with it. The wife said she ordered it, sorted the pieces, and even made a stop-motion build video. Neither wanted to disassemble it. They both claimed it should remain in one piece. We proposed shared custody with a handoff every 6 months. They both refused. Eventually, they agreed to build a second one together, on the condition they would each keep one and never speak again. They met at a library's private room. No eye contact, just quiet Lego clicking for 6 hours. When it was done, they nodded and left with their sets like it was a hostage exchange. Story 55. A woman once refused to finalize her divorce without taking the garage door opener remote, even though she wasn't keeping the house. Her reasoning? It's mine. I always had it in my car. He doesn't get to have everything. The husband offered to deactivate it, change the system, even buy her a new one just to get her to let it go. She refused. Eventually, he surrendered. She got the remote. Later, she mailed it back in a box, filled with glitter. No note. Just glitter and a useless remote. He showed up to his lawyer's office still pulling sparkles out of his hair. All he said was, "She always knew how to stick the landing." Story 56. There was a couple who fought over a collection of refrigerator magnets. We're not talking rare collectibles, just random magnets from gas stations, souvenir shops, and one shaped like a hot dog that said, Wiener, Arkansas. The wife said they were a record of their travels. The husband said, "They're mine. I drove every mile." They ended up negotiating a split. Literally, each chose magnets draft style, one at a time, like picking players for a dodgeball team. They sat at opposite ends of the table pointing. Vegas dice magnet. Fine. Then I'm taking the bear from Yellowstone. The last magnet? A photo strip from a boardwalk that had both of their faces. Neither wanted to take it. They just left it in the middle of the table and moved on. Sometimes the silence speaks volumes. Story 57. I had a client who went nuclear over a dog hoodie. The ex-wife had bought a little red hoodie for their French bulldog. It had a gold S on the back like a superhero logo. The dog wore it constantly. During the divorce, my client requested 3 things: the car, his record collection, and the dog hoodie. Not the dog. She kept the dog. He just wanted the hoodie as a memory. She refused. Said he didn't walk the dog, didn't buy the hoodie, and just wanted to be annoying. He said, "Fine, I'll buy a new one." She replied, "It won't smell like him." That sent him. We ended up going through official channels to request an itemized list of pet accessories. She mailed back a plain envelope with a sticky note inside that just said, "Get over it." Brutal. Story 58. A case came across my desk involving a couple who fought over a plastic Halloween pumpkin. You know the kind kids use for trick-or-treating? Hard plastic, orange, with a black handle. Except this one had googly eyes glued on and a name. Spookums. They'd used it every year as a candy bowl during parties. The wife claimed she had decorated it and gave it its personality. The husband said he always set it out and refilled it during their Halloween movie marathons. Neither would compromise. So, in a moment of unexpected brilliance, their mediator suggested a pumpkin off. Each had to carve a new plastic pumpkin that represented their claim to Spookums. The one with the most creativity would win custody. They both went all in. Glitter, lights, name tags, even backstory. The wife won. She cried. The husband shook her hand and said, "May Spookums live on in spooky peace." Honestly, healthiest outcome I've seen from a dumb object fight. Story 59. There was a husband who refused to finalize anything unless he got the TV remote holder. Not a high-end item. Just a little faux leather box that sat on the coffee table with spaces for 4 remotes. His reasoning? I bought it. I organized it. I always made sure the remotes were in the right slots. The wife rolled her eyes and said, "He's more passionate about that thing than he ever was with me." The remote holder somehow became a metaphor for control. We tried offering him the remotes. Nope. He wanted the holder. After 3 weeks of back and forth, the wife gave in. He took it and left the actual remotes behind. We later heard she mailed him a universal remote, dipped in peanut butter. No note, just the remote and the scent of war. Story 60. This couple fought over a single chair. It wasn't fancy. Just an old recliner, worn in, one arm slightly lower than the other. But it was his chair. He watched football in it, took naps in it, nursed hangovers in it. She hated it, called it the brown monster, said it smelled like beer and broken dreams. But when they split, she said she wanted it to make sure it never ruins another living room again. He was stunned, offered to buy her a brand new chair, any chair, just to get it back. She refused. They ended up in mediation. The chair was awarded to her. He came to pick up the rest of his stuff and found the chair on the curb, already taken apart and posted online as free. He stood over the pile of fabric and springs like it was a crime scene, said nothing, just drove away. A week later, she texted him a link to the listing. Gone, like your back support.